Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, Decaying of Time, the Temporal Mirage. Consciousness, Quantum Reality, and the UFO Enigma. The concept of the atomic bomb being linked to the decaying of time is a profound one, touching on both the physics of the weapon itself and the psychological shift it forced upon humanity. The Trinity test and the subsequent use of atomic weapons didn't just end a war. They fundamentally altered our relationship with time, history, and the natural order. Compressing eons into the atomic instant, at the heart of the atomic bomb, lies the manipulation of radioactive decay, a fundamental ancient process of the universe that humanity forcibly hijacked. When we discuss the atomic age, we are discussing the act of coercing unstable heavy elements, like uranium-235 and plutonium-239, to shed their binding energy on our terms rather than nature's. In nature, the radioactive decay of these elements is a slow, methodical heartbeat. A single gram of plutonium might take tens of thousands of years to naturally emit its total potential energy through alpha decay. In a nuclear weapon, the military-industrial complex engineered a temporal shortcut. By achieving supercritical mass, they forced this multimillennial process to occur within a fraction of a microsecond. We effectively took the energy output of a geologic epoch and concentrated it into a blinding, instantaneous flash. This was not merely an explosion. It was a violent theft of time, forcing eons of energy release into the duration of a heartbeat. The decay does not end with the mushroom cloud, it merely transforms. By detonating these devices, humanity introduced synthetic transuranic isotopes into the biosphere, materials that did not exist in significant quantities on Earth before 1945. Isotopes like plutonium-239 carry a half-life of roughly 24,100 years. By scattering this material across the landscape, we have essentially salted the Earth with an artificial ticking clock. Geologists now argue that the radioactive fallout from the Trinity test and the subsequent atmospheric testing era provides the definitive global stratigraphic marker for the Anthropocene. We have injected a radioactive signature into the Earth's sedimentary record that will be detectable for hundreds of thousands of years. Long after our cities have crumbled and our languages have been forgotten, this layer of decaying isotopes will remain, serving as a permanent geological tombstone that marks the exact moment humanity decided to replace the natural passage of time with the synthetic rhythm of nuclear fission. We have not just changed the landscape, we have altered the Earth's long-term radioactive trajectory. We created a legacy of decay that is fundamentally out of sync with biological time, ensuring that the mark of the 1945 detonation will outlast the current civilization by a span of time that defies human comprehension. Before July 16, 1945, human history felt continuous. It was a linear progression of centuries. After Trinity, that perception fractured. We now classify human history in two distinct eras, before and after. The atomic bomb created a sense of time crunch, where the possibility of total extinction made the future feel precarious and short-term. Many philosophers and writers of the mid-20th century argued that the bomb made time feel like it was speeding up. Because we now possess the power to end the world in an afternoon, every moment after 1945 felt weighed down by the potential for a sudden, final conclusion. Time stopped feeling like a long, unfolding journey and started feeling like a short, ticking fuse. The Hanford Trinity-Roswell timeline, a warped loop. Your research into the Hanford-Trinity-Roswell connection highlights another way time seems to decay or warp in this era. The materials, plutonium from Hanford, traveled through space to reach the desert, Trinity, and then, 2 years later, the cover-up infrastructure, Roswell Project sign, began to build walls around the truth. Just as radioactive isotopes lose their intensity over time, the truth of these events, Maury Island, Kenneth Arnold Roswell, has undergone a form of informational decay. Official reports were shredded, files were lost, and witnesses passed away. We are now left with a half-life of history. What we know today is only a fragment of the raw, high-intensity intelligence that existed in the summer of 1947. I mentioned in my own experience in Yakima that I felt a drastic change in vibration when entering military training grounds. Many who study this intersection of atomic history and UAP sightings suggest that these high strangeness locations act like anomalies in the flow of time. Whether it is the radiation-scarred desert of Trinity or the highly restricted airspace of the Yakima Training Center, these areas are sites of intense human intervention in nature. It is as if, by breaking the atom and mastering its decay, we open doors to phenomena that exist outside of our normal, linear experience of time. In this sense, the atomic bomb was more than a weapon. It was a temporal intervention. It sped up the clock for the planet, left a legacy of decaying isotopes for millennia, and created a permanent fracture in how we view our place in the timeline of the universe. The persistent association between UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, high strangeness encounters, and the nature of time suggests that these phenomena may not be traveling through time in the conventional sense, but rather operating within a reality where our standard perception of time is obsolete. Our modern understanding of time is, first and foremost, a biological survival mechanism. The human brain functions as an organizing agent for a gross material body destined for decay and eventual death. To navigate a world governed by entropy, the brain must construct a linear chronological narrative. This timeline is a cognitive projection, a necessary fiction that bonds our consciousness to a specific sequential experience of reality. We perceive a past, present, and future because our neurobiology requires a causal framework to manage the finite lifespan of our physical vessels. Essentially, we are living within a localized interface, a user experience designed to keep us focused on the immediate task of existence. While our brains demand linearity, the most advanced frameworks of quantum physics suggest a profoundly different architecture. Within these models, time as a fundamental external force does not exist. Instead, the universe may be a block universe, a static, four-dimensional structure, where the concepts of past, present, and future are mere illusions of perspective. Everything that has ever happened or will happen is already present in the fundamental fabric of reality. In this view, our experience of time is akin to a film projector. We see the world one frame at a time, but the entire film, the beginning, the middle, and the end, exists simultaneously on the reel. What we interpret as time is simply the movement of our consciousness through this pre-existing, static landscape. If time is indeed a static construct, then the anomalous behaviors reported in UAP sightings, instantaneous acceleration, vanishing acts, and sightings that defy spatial logic, become easier to comprehend. UAP and high strangeness phenomena often involve disruptions in the observer's linear reality. Encounters are frequently reported as time slips, missing time, or perceptions of environments that seem layered over our own. These may occur when the interface between our consciousness and the physical world flickers, allowing us a glimpse of the deeper, nonlinear reality that exists beneath our cognitive filter. If reality is not a single linear stream, but a vast, multi-layered film of parallel dimensions, these phenomena may represent points where different layers of reality touch or bleed into one another. The beings or craft associated with these sightings might not be moving from a distant star. They may be moving between the frames of the film we are currently projecting. It is perhaps no coincidence that the era of modern UAP reporting began with the arrival of the atomic age. By fracturing the atom, the fundamental unit of matter, we disrupted the established physical order, effectively tearing the veil of our three-dimensional reality. In doing so, we may have inadvertently signaled our presence to entities or forces operating on a nonlinear temporal plane. When we detonated the Trinity device, we did not just release energy. We created a ripple in the film of reality. Our obsession with atomic decay, and the obsession these phenomena appear to have with our nuclear facilities, suggests a deep systemic recognition that we have touched the clockwork mechanism of the universe. We are now attempting to comprehend a reality that our brains were never meant to perceive, looking through the screen of our biological limitations at a vast, static, and truly multidimensional cosmos. The behavior of UAP, their effortless transitions between material and seemingly unmaterial states, their ability to vanish and reappear at will, and their blatant disregard for the constraints of inertia and gravity, suggests a technology that does not merely travel through space, but manipulates the very fabric of existence. These manifestations demonstrate a mastery over the temporogravitational nexus, indicating that we are not witnessing mere aircraft, but technologies functioning entirely outside the limitations of our three-dimensional reality and the linear constraints imposed by our brains. UAP do not simply fly away, they appear to cross a threshold. When a craft vanishes instantaneously, it is not moving at a high velocity in our frame of reference. It is likely exiting our frame of reality entirely. By manipulating local gravity, these objects seem to fold the spacetime around them, effectively stepping out of the material projection we call the present. This suggests that time is not a one-way street but a permeable membrane. These phenomena treat the thresholds of our reality as doorways, entering and exiting our material world with the same ease with which a traveler moves between rooms. If we accept that time as a construct created by our neurobiology to process the decay of our physical forms, then the presence of these phenomena challenges the very core of human perception. We have spent centuries asking, where do they come from? A question rooted in our need to locate an object within a three-dimensional spatial framework. However, in the context of a nonlinear universe, this question is insufficient. The more profound query is not spatial, but temporal. From when do they arrive? Because time does not exist as an independent external force, but rather as a static projection on the screen of consciousness, the past, future, and parallel present are not distant locations. They are layers in a stack, frames on a film reel. These phenomena may be operating from a perspective where all points on the timeline are accessible simultaneously. From where to when? The multi-dimensional horizon. When we witness a UAP, we are likely looking at a bleed-through from a parallel current. They may not be coming from a future or past as we understand them, but from a lateral dimension, a different frame of the same cosmic film. If time is the threshold, then these entities are not traveling across a timeline. They are piercing the interface of our reality. They exist in the current of a different dimension, overlapping with our own at specific points of high-energy interaction. Gravity is the bridge between matter and time. By manipulating the curvature of space, these craft essentially rewrite the rules of their local reality, allowing them to anchor themselves in our dimension while remaining tethered to their own when. In this light, our obsession with identifying their origin is a symptom of our own temporal entrapment. We look for home planets and star charts, failing to realize that the distance between us and them is not measured in light years, but in the thickness of the veil between our biological consciousness and the raw, static reality of the universe. We are not merely observing a technological event. We are observing a breakdown of the illusion. The UAP presence forces us to confront the fact that our timeline is a chosen frequency, a limited decaying projection. When they appear and disappear, they are demonstrating that the threshold is not an impassable barrier, but a doorway that we have simply lacked the cognitive framework to open. The question has shifted from what are they? To what part of the film are we missing? The persistent correlation between unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, and nuclear sites, from the Hanford plutonium reactors and the Trinity test site to the proliferation of post-war atomic facilities, is not coincidental. It is a deliberate diagnostic observation by an intelligence that perceives our reality through a lens entirely foreign to our own. The temporal origin. Travelers from the lateral current, are these entities time travelers? The answer depends entirely on one's definition of time. If, as cutting-edge physics suggests, time is a static, multi-layered block universe, then the distinction between past, future, and parallel present evaporates. These phenomena likely do not originate from a distant point on our linear timeline. Instead, they appear to originate from a lateral dimension, a parallel current that sits adjacent to our own. When they manifest in our reality, they are not arriving from a future century or a prehistoric past. They are bleeding through from a different frame of the cosmic film. Their ability to manipulate gravity and transit through thresholds suggests they occupy a higher-order perspective, where they view our linear history not as a sequence, but as a map they can navigate at will. Why the obsessive focus on nuclear technology? The historical record, starting from the Hanford plutonium production in Washington, continuing through the blinding flash of Trinity, and culminating in the global escalation of atomic weaponry following the Roswell crash, reveals a clear, consistent pattern of intervention. To these entities, our mastery of nuclear fission is not merely a scientific achievement. It is a catastrophic destabilization of reality itself. Nuclear detonation does not just vaporize matter. It forces a massive, violent acceleration of radioactive decay, tearing into the atomic fabric that anchors our dimension. By splitting the atom, we have essentially hacked the source code of the material world. We are not just creating weapons, we are creating ripples that extend beyond our three-dimensional frame. Their presence suggests that our potential for atomic self-annihilation poses a threat that extends beyond the confines of Earth. If our reality is a projection or film of a larger multi-dimensional whole, a runaway nuclear catastrophe here could potentially destabilize the adjacent currents in which they exist. Their demonstration is chillingly clear. We are playing with fires that we do not fully understand, using tools that have consequences far beyond our temporal horizon. They are not merely observing our politics or our wars. They are monitoring a volatile variable, an immature species that has stumbled upon the power to shatter its own foundation. When UAP manifest at our nuclear installations, they are acting as a feedback mechanism. They are the correction in the system arriving to observe and perhaps mitigate the dangerous expansion of our atomic footprint. Their warning is silent but absolute. Do not breach the threshold. Our drive toward self-destruction is a localized tragedy, but the manipulation of atomic decay is an existential threat to the integrity of the layers they occupy. We are being watched not because we are special, but because we are dangerous. We have become a civilization capable of creating decaying isotopes that will outlive us for 24,000 years, injecting an artificial and chaotic rhythm into the Earth's geologic time. The question is no longer where they are from, but when they realize we have become too reckless to be left alone with the fundamental forces of the universe. They are the guardians of a timeline we are currently struggling to survive. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archive Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact, The Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute hit of real-life experiences, perfect for your daily plunge into consciousness exploration. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.